Well, hey, Dennis, welcome to the podcast.
Pastor Rob, it's great to see you and be with you in the basement of Zumbro Lutheran.
You can't get farther away from the front door.
It's pretty true. Yeah, absolutely.
Have you been down here yet?
This is my first time.
All
it's
right.
quite impressive.
It's kind of cool. Yeah.
We won't actually say what's outside the door to this room.
No, we don't want to tell people where it's at.
Yeah, no,
you have to want it.
Right. Yeah. Superman had his. What do they call the Superman thing? Where he recharged.
Oh, his what is it? The Fortress of Solitude.
Fortress of Solitude.
Right.
So this could be yours.
That's right.
Yeah.
Well, Dennis, glad that you're here. We're going to talk about stewardship. That's been our theme for a handful of these conversations.
Sure.
Want to start by basically you introducing yourself, kind of what you do. Tell us about yourself in the church, and then we'll talk about some other things.
Sure, that's happy to. The truncated version or the Cliff Notes version is grew up in a God-fearing Lutheran family. We were a two-generation farm family. My grandparents lived in the same farm as my parents and my three brothers and I. And we attended a small rural Lutheran parish. And I remember from a very early age that giving, stewardship, and the envelope giving was sacrificial. That was off the tithe. We often say the tithe should be off the top. And it was every bit that. And in fact, I can remember my parents on infrequent occasions arguing about how much was being given to the church. Really? And so it was that. So it just struck me at a very early age that that envelope giving is pretty important, and that's it's off the top.
So what was your impression as a kid still? Obviously in adulthood we look back, we have different impressions of those memories and those conversations, but did that strike you as just what you did? Did it seem excessive? Did it seem, what was that from a kid's perspective, if anything?
Yeah, from a kid's perspective, it was kind of as natural as the sun coming up in the east, right? Yeah. It's it's just part of the life. But God gives you blessings, gives you life, and the ability to make a living, food on the table, and in return you put something in the envelope. And on Sunday you go to church every Sunday. Every Sunday.
Yeah. And do you still do that? Go to church every single Sunday?
No, that's not even fair. Yeah. Well,
None of us do, Dennis. No, I don't go every Sunday. I get days off too.
So I love the advent of online worship because I can go to church on Monday evening if I happen to miss Sunday. It's wonderful. That's right. We can stream it, and I do.
And all joking aside, for those listening, I'm poking fun because Dennis is pretty darn dutiful at when he's online or he's watching later in the week. I usually will get a text about the sermon, right? It's kind of like you need the attendance, right?
It's kind of a check in a box.
I
want Pastor Rob to know that I'm watching.
That's
Absolutely,
right.
Absolutely.
Well, I think that's in the great state of North Dakota. I don't think you said North Dakota.
I did not say North Dakota because we are not in North Dakota, and I don't want to offend anybody here. But I will say that I'm half Minnesotan. My mother was born and raised in Minnesota. So
okay, all right. So we can own part of that, right? I can own
part of it.
That's
absolutely.
Good. So, when it comes to stewardship, it's this word, if you will, and concept for you. It was very much a part of what you did. How do you think that word might be scary or interesting? Or we have a lot of people who are increasingly less churched.
Yeah.
And so talking about the kind of practice of stewardship and the education of it, what do you think is missing? What do you think people should know? I don't know where to take that, but from your perspective, what would you want people to know who didn't grow up with that?
Yeah, it's my guess is, and more than a guess, it's an informed guess because I've talked to lots of people that didn't grow up in the church, and so to them, stewardship can be scary because it's maybe viewed as a code word for give me money, right?
Yeah, right.
And I've been churched and schooled over the years by people that are really, whose heart is absolutely in the right place, and they lead with a sense that you're not asking for money, you're inviting, you're inviting people to give some of what they've been given in blessings back, and that's really. Right. And when it comes to church stewardship, that's really what it is. And as I've lived my professional life from childhood, giving a nickel out of my quarter allowance to the plate, to first go out of college and growing professionally, I've always, and maybe it's stuck that early childhood experience. I've always. And sort of using a value or a sense of paying it forward. Is it if I was fortunate enough to get a promotion, fortunate enough to get a raise, the first thing I did was increase giving.
Yeah.
And once you practice that, and that just becomes part of the way, if you never let that increase, that raise, get into your pocketbook, I got to say it's easier.
Yeah, yeah.
Plus, it's the way it's supposed to happen, of course, according to my set of values.
Right. Yeah. That's very cool. Very cool. So what I'd like us to spend some time on, because that and keeping that as our foundation, really, right? The concept of giving, concept of giving back, the spiritual nature of generosity, if you will. And I think I mentioned one of these weeks in a sermon too that a mentor of mine always liked to teach that stewardship wasn't about giving 10%; it was about keeping 90%, which is kind of what you're saying.
Exactly.
I mean,
That's right.
so it's not that you're just giving it; you're actually keeping some of it. And right placing some of it. But given that, I would like us to talk about our budget. Now, we'll use the concept or the term budget, but me, I like to use the phrase mission plan.
And I completely, I agree with that. That's budget is what I do Monday through Friday over at Mayo Clinic. That's not what it is a mission plan. What you spend those resources on is the most important part.
Yeah, and that's the mission. And in churches, I like, and I know in all congregations these words mean something slightly different, and that's true at Zumbro as well. And I do like to, and I'm just saying this because I'm taking my opportunity. I don't think I've said it yet. That keeping the lights on is actually missional when we say we want to be a downtown church.
Of course.
Right? Because to be here means the place has to be functional. To fund children, youth, and family is a mission we were deciding or feel called to embark upon. So it's all mission, and it's a plan on how we're going to use resources to accomplish that mission. But that being said, mission plans don't always go as expected.
Very true.
Economies and giving and situations, costs of things, all ebb and flow and push and shove on these numbers in a way. And what isn't uncommon in churches is you get through the third quarter, and often you're in the red. Now, some of it's expected. I know it is for us, but just because it's expected doesn't mean we don't need to make people aware of where we are. And so I want to talk about that a little bit. And I don't know how you want to open that up, but we're short. Let's just be honest. We're short right now.
Right. And like probably 95% of faith families or faith communities in the nation, we end the summer probably in a deficit position.
That's right. Exactly.
And so, and this year, and we've tried to communicate with congregants and make sure that nobody is surprised about this, because I live in constant fear of surprising somebody with bad news, and so we're over communicating, maybe not over communicating, but we're communicating to the best of our ability what's going on. So so we ended the first 9 months of the year with a $166,000 deficit. That's about a 10% deficit. We all know that October, November, and December are big giving months, and we hope that it reoccurs. And if we perform in those months as a congregation and through sacrificial and generous giving, we'll end the year in about where we think we'll end the year about where we planned, and that is with a smaller deficit than that.
Right, because we still, maybe not everyone, I know we communicated it, but these are not things that everyone digs into. We planned an $80,000+ deficit.
Right?
$87,000 deficit. We voted in all of that, but that's still not great.
Still not great. No, so that really gets to the long term, because the council that the church council that recommended to the congregation, and the congregation then accepted that deficit spending was a budget with a hopeful line in it, and that hopeful line in it is that top line, the congregational giving. Can we, here's the expenses are set by what we want to accomplish and what we want to do in ministry for the community and for ourselves. And so that we know those numbers, and I have to compliment you and the church staff. You've done a terrific job this year at managing those numbers to less than what we had planned. So that's a terrific that's stewardship in and of itself.
Well, thank you. The team does great. I don't take credit. That's who the people on our team that do that.
I know. But we are about 6% behind plan on giving.
Yep.
And boy, if we could make that up, that would be terrific. Yeah. In fact, more than make that up, that would be truly terrific and missional.
Yeah. What do you think? What do you think gets in the way of that? Obviously, economies matter. Sometimes it is just us not communicating as well as we could. People do often wait to the end of the year and wait for that general ask.
Right.
I've even had, since the Zed Talk, which happened not that long ago, I've had some emails of people saying, well, what's this number about, or what's that number about?
Right.
I'm just curious, in your experience, not just at Zumbro, but any church, what triggers that? What gets in the way?
I suppose it's a whole bunch of things, right? It's, daily life creeps in, and, economic stressors come in. I was asked this question at the Zed Talk, was that just a week ago?
It really was,
a few days ago. And that is, do you think the economy is getting in the way of things? And my answer is, I can see, two images by looking out the window. I can see an image where there's a lot of uncertainty, but honestly, in current day, everything's always uncertain.
Yeah.
I can remember back, 20 years, and it seemed uncertain then too. Yeah. So there's kind of always that. But I also look at, what's going on in our community of Rochester. It's, we are referred almost universally as the economic star of the state.
Right.
I mean, Minneapolis, St. Paul, St. Cloud, Duluth would love to be Rochester.
Right.
And so we've got stable employment and a whole bunch of good things going on for us. And so, is the economy a barrier? I'm not sure. But I'll give credit to our friend Don Meyer, because he stood up after I sort of fumbled the answer and said something to the fact that the economy. He's experienced as a fundraiser, and he said the economy never dissuades. People give in bad times, they give in good times.
Right.
Two things have to happen: they have to believe in the mission, and they have to be asked.
Right.
And so, those are probably the two things that might get in the way. I mean, if you believe in the mission, you believe what we're doing here at Zumbro Lutheran, what you're doing in a ministry mode. If you have doubts, come on a Wednesday night.
Right.
Because my wife, and this, volunteers with the children, youth, and family in the confirmation program on Wednesday evenings, and she comes home, and it's a full hour of debrief every Wednesday night because she's so excited about what's going on. And congratulations to you for drawing in our youth and even new youth, new families. So terrific work there. And so if you have doubts about the mission of what we're doing here, come on a Wednesday night.
Yeah, come on a Wednesday, right. It is hard. It's hard in church world, right? Because I think in most churches, maybe not all, but most churches, Sunday mornings are Sunday mornings. So there's different styles, there's different qualities, there's different types of preaching. All of that varies to a pretty broad degree, I would think.
Right.
But I would say that not often do you really experience what the mission of that congregation is about by being present only on a Sunday morning.
Yeah, completely agree.
Right. And so that's good encouragement.
Yeah.
Going to the budget maybe a little more, just some nuts and bolts. I don't know if everyone knows, but probably a lot of people do. And also remembering that not everyone who listens is a part of our community.
Sure.
Just want to put that on the table.
Sure.
A huge part of our budget, of our mission plan, is payroll.
Correct.
Right? Then there's a portion of it, which is also not terribly small, is kind of mortgage and utilities, other kind of non-movable things to some degree. And there's actually not much there that you would call kind of ministry or missional expenses beyond those two things. I mean, is that fair to say, and maybe to educate some people about that a little bit? Right.
It's so remember the old hand thing that we used to learn when we were kids. Here's the church.
Oh yeah.
Here's the steeple. Open it up. Sell the people.
Yeah.
Guess what? Those people are both congregants and their staff, and so that's what makes a church work. It's people, right?
Right.
And so that model, we can always manage staff maybe a little tighter, but what goes hand in glove with that is volunteer.
Yeah.
So the work has to get done. Ministry doesn't happen by itself. It happens because we minister to each other, and it's labor.
Yeah.
And so we have to do all that. And guess what? Zumbro's been through a couple of things in the last few years. There's the pandemic. Obviously, everybody went through that.
Mm-hmm.
There's not a church in the nation or in the world that did not go through that. We also went through a building project that created what was already a beautiful sanctuary. I made it a much more beautiful place, upgraded some technology. We did some things that had to be done, sort of infrastructure things, all necessary, but it did add to our overall building costs.
Right.
And as we've been talking about those, that mortgage is a little bit bigger for us than it probably needs to be or should be. And so more to come on that,
for sure.
But that's, those costs aren't, together are the minority of the budget.
Right.
we acknowledge that. So, one way to lean in, and this is getting back to stewardship. It's time, talents, or
and
resources. Right. So, if I think it was on Sunday. Yeah, it was on Sunday where you asked for people to come in and help with maintenance.
Yeah. We had a little sketch going on up front.
It was terrific. It's terrific, and that actually harkens back to my childhood, where the farming community.
Yeah.
So the church needed to be painted. Everybody took 2 weekdays.
Wow.
And would bring loaders and lifters and scaffolding, and we'd all paint the church. Church needed to be carpeted. And guess what? The same families would take 3 or 4 days, and the men back in those days would lay the carpet. Yeah. That's the way it worked. It was volunteer. You didn't pay somebody to do that. You did it yourself.
Right.
Now we've come a ways from that, and that's maybe not appropriate in Zumbro, in a community of professionals that are hardworking and doing all that. So it probably doesn't work. So we've got more of a staff-led model here, and it works.
Yeah.
But it also has a cost.
Right. And
that's part of the price of being, part of Zumbro Lutheran. If we believe in the mission again, that's stewardship is both is a responsibility.
Yeah, and also to that point, when it comes to stewarding, you said 2 things I think are really important to lift up. The first one is there are ways we can volunteer. That is a part of stewardship, right? Time and talents, also financial resources, which, yes, we're talking about a short budget. We would like people to write some more checks. Absolutely. Yeah. And at the same time, there are a lot of ways you can still plug in to give of your time and talents. And the way your wife does is one of them, and many others on Wednesday nights, or with the food truck that we have, or on Sunday mornings to help make worship happen, or whatever. There's all kind of ways to do that. And I think it is, most of us probably did grow up in smaller churches, and you see the size of personnel budget that we have, and it's shocking. And if the personnel budget is 3 to 5 times bigger than your entire church budget in your small church, that can shock people if you're not used to seeing those numbers. Of course. And yet, when you have a really sizable professional staff like we have, to your point, right? Even a 3% raise, if that's what we're doing, a given year, is a substantial increase in what we need to give to support that mission.
Right. And there's certain skill sets that you just can't volunteer.
Right.
I mean, you need pastors.
Yeah. Yeah.
You could maybe get somebody to volunteer for the tech, but that's hard.
It's hard to do because there's a huge learning curve.
Yeah, it's a huge learning curve.
And if anyone wants to volunteer to play the organ like Matt does.
Yeah, exactly. Right? The next place I was going is that you can't volunteer away somebody of Matt's caliber and quality.
Right. And I would say that Zumbro and other churches as well have come to appropriately enjoy and even expect a certain level of professionalism and skill and ability in various positions. And to be real, there's cost to that, right?
Of course.
As there is in any area of the world, to be honest.
Right.
Yeah, church budgets are complicated and tricky, and but I really like, you highlighted as well, if not better than many, believing in the mission of what we're about. And you got to really believe in that. And I think, at Zumbro, to articulate that, especially over the years, right? Service to the community and to the world, children, youth, and family, present in time, to really share the gospel at people's side, bedside, shoulder to shoulder through pastoral care. Right. And I think interestingly, and I think appropriately, and most people don't understand how seriously Zumbro takes that. We have an entire pastoral position that does 9 worship services at senior living facilities across Rochester to people who aren't even members. Right. Is a huge ministry. Absolutely. That is a mission. We're going to be with people where they're at. Talk about a Jesus concept of meeting people where they're at. These people can't leave where they're at.
I know.
And we go there.
It could be more missional than that, honestly. Right, absolutely. And it's a huge ministry by a huge pastor.
Tim and I think I told you this when I started here. Pastor Shelley was here. Some of you don't know who that is maybe already, but Pastor Shelley, Pastor Tim are both tall individuals.
They are quite tall,
right?
yes.
And maybe I've shared this, but then we used to process down the front when I first arrived here, and I would be flanked by Tim and Shelley as we walked by, and my family's, my kids' first time seeing that, they were waiting for me to grab their hands and swing like I was their child because I was so much shorter than them. That's the image.
Yeah, there we go.
So,
Absolutely.
Yes, Tim,
yes.
But he's a teddy bear. He's a sweet guy.
I know.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, is there anything else that you want to lift up for the congregation or those listeners about stewardship or about our budget or about the hope for a strong end of the year or anything like that before we close?
So I wouldn't leave without expressing hope for the strong end of the year. I think that we do have we are the congregation that is Zumbro Lutheran is the church that my wife Mary and I found 8 years ago when we moved to Rochester. It's a thriving community of faith that with strong ties to each other, strong ties to the community, a strong sense of mission and purpose, and that's still here.
Absolutely.
Obviously, the piece that I think our biggest challenge over the next few years is keeping in mind as we're thinking about how do we resource this, how do we organize ourselves, is making sure that we're paying attention to the community as much as we're paying attention to ourselves.
Yeah.
And so there are the people that don't get to vote on the mission plan or provide input into the ones that aren't here yet.
Yeah. And
that's what we've got to organize ourselves for, because the one thing that you schooled us in is while Rochester, the community is growing quite a bit, we haven't grown as much, and so we're sort of losing ground a little bit. And I think that's something it's in the forefront of my mind as I'm thinking mission plan. What and if you think about it from maybe an entrepreneurial standpoint or an organizational strategy standpoint, what do you have to do?
Right.
What do you have to do? That's got to be part of the mission plan. It's not just keeping all of us that are already here happy, right?
That's right.
I think that's critical for us.
And I think in context of our current mission plan and being, roughly 10% down, it's hard to do that.
Absolutely.
When we're kind of at the lower level of sustaining what is.
Right.
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 And so it would be great for us to be able to make up 6 to 10% in the next quarter.
Yeah.
Right? And then free us up to really be missional and to be freed to reach out to those who aren't here and to be creative to reach a population that is increasingly not churched. Like more and more people didn't have the experience on the farm, and hear parents arguing about how much they're going to give. It's not as common as maybe it once was. People are, this is a foreign place, but I don't think that love and grace and mercy and caring for each other, the things that we stand for, are foreign. I think I think people are hungry for that.
Yeah, and just to put it in simple terms, if we can, if all of us reach into our hearts and reach into our wallets and our resources, and finish this year strong, we can maybe erase that deficit, and that means those monies that we would use to fund the deficit can be put towards maybe new ministries or maybe some other things. Yeah. So all of that's that is a virtuous circle if we can complete that.
Amen. Yeah. Amen. Well, Dennis, thank you for your time. I know you're a busy guy, but
pleasure.
This has been a fun conversation and hopefully insightful for people.
And thank you. That's thanks for all you do for Zumbro Lutheran.
Yeah. Thank you very much.
Thanks, Pastor.
You bet.